Hello all. Today our discussion will be on security attacks. There are two types of security attack. One is the passive attack. In passive attack, it makes use of information from the system but does not affect system resources. Active attacks, it attempts to alter system resources or affect their operation. The main difference between passive and active attacks are in passive attacks, the system resources are not damaged, whereas in active attacks, the system resources are under threat. Now let us discuss about passive attacks in detail. The passive attacks have the nature of eavesdropping or monitoring of transmissions. Here, the goal of the opponent is to obtain information that is being transmitted. This picture can help us to understand how the passive attacks can be carried out. Here, there are three persons. One is Bob, Alice, and Dart. Bob and Alice are legitimate users, where Bob is trying to send some information to Alice, and Dart is an attacker. So when Bob is sending some information to Alice through internet or other communications facility, Dot is sitting silently and observing the messages that are shared between them. The passive attacks are also having different types. There are two types. One is the release of message contents. So in release of message content, the information that is shared between two people are known to the attacker. It is just like the telephone conversation by having a person nearby. When two people are talking through the telephone, a third person will be sitting nearby and silently observing the conversation. Here, there is no threat to the system resources. The second type is traffic analysis. Unfortunately, for the opponent, the information is encrypted. So he is not able to capture the information due to this encryption. He may not know the pattern of message, and the opponent can determine the location and identity of communicating host. That is, Bob is communicating with Alice, and from where Bob is communicating with Alice, such information is known to the opponent. The opponent can observe the frequency and length of messages being exchanged, how long they are sharing the information. And active attacks in detail. Active attacks, here the modification of data stream happens, or a new data stream can be created and it can be sent to the other person as if the legitimate user has sent the message. Say for example, in this picture, we have the users Bob and Alice who are legitimate users. While Bob is trying to send a message to Alice through internet or other communication facility, Dot is an attacker who is trying to modify the messages by capturing the messages that were sent by Bob to Alice, or he is trying to create his own messages and send it to Alice as if Bob has sent the message to her. So there are three parts available here. One is the legitimate user, Bob, is able to communicate with Alice. Next is the message is being captured by Dot. He is doing some modifications or he is creating his own messages and he is sending to Alice. As like passive attacks, active attacks are also having different types. First one is masquerade. Here, one entity pretends to be a different entity. So just like wearing a mask. If a person is wearing a mask, that means he is pretending to be another entity. Example, part to win figure. In this figure, if you see, Bob is actually sending a message to Alice. But here in Masquerade, Bob is not sending a message. Instead, Dart is creating his own message and he is sending to Alice as if Bob has sent the message. The second type is replay. It is the capture of data unit and its subsequent retransmission to produce an unauthorized effect. So maybe the actual message has been sent to the recipient side. The attacker, he may resend the messages multiple times so that it can produce an unauthorized effect. Example, path 1, 2, and 3 in figure. So Bob is sending a message to Alice. So this message is being received by Alice. At the same time, Dodge, the attacker, he is also stealing the information. He is modifying the information, or he is, without modification, he's sending the information to Alice multiple times so that Alice gets confused. The next type is modification of message. Some portion of legitimate message is altered, or that messages are delayed or reordered to produce an unauthorized effect. Here, Dart is receiving the messages sent by Bob, and he is doing some modification to the messages, or he will be delaying the message, or he will be reordering the messages so that the recipient may be confused or the message may go unavailable. Example, parts 1 and 2 in figure. Bob is sending the message, which is captured by Dot, modified and sent to Alice. The fourth type is denial of service. It prevents or inhibits the normal use or management of communications facilities. When Bob is trying to send the message to Alice through internet or other communication facility, the attacker may damage the system resources like the internet or other communication facilities so that the information that was sent by Bob could not reach Alice. This is called denial of service. Example part 3, as I have discussed, Bob is sending the message, but there is no system resources available so that the information may not reach the recipient side. Now comes the comparison of passive and active attacks. First comparison is, in case of passive attacks, the attacker observes the message. Here there is no threat to the system resources. But in case of active attack, the attacker modifies the messages. The second comparison is with respect to the detection. In passive attack, it is very difficult to detect because there is no change or modifications. So it is difficult to detect, whereas in active attack, since there are some active modifications, it is easy to detect. In the other way, in passive attack, prevention is easy, but in active attacks, prevention of the modification of messages is very difficult. In passive attack, there is breach of message confidentiality because attacker or a third person is able to understand the messages or the traffic of the message. In case of active attack, there is breach of integrity and availability. So the message that was sent by the sender may not reach the recipient as it was actually sent, or the data may not be available to the recipient. And the final comparison is about the system resources. In passive attack, the system resources are not damaged, whereas in active attacks, the resources are damaged. Hope you have understood the concept. Thank you for watching. If you have any queries, ping to femilda.js@gmail.com.